Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. This is News and Views on Salam Media. It is exactly 8:45 a.m. South African time. And guys, it's snowing in my part of the world. Let's cross over and speak with Hasan Nuhanovic. He is a survivor of the Srebrenica genocide. He's also the author and social justice advocate. He's based in Bosnia, and he's going to be talking to us about reflecting on 28 years since the Bosnia genocide. And obviously, during all of that time, he has become a social justice advocate. Undoubtedly, him, his family, and his entire community truly saw lots and lots of suffering back then in this during this genocide. Hasan Nuhanovic, assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me in the program.
Thank you indeed for being with us on the show this morning. And I'm saddened to realize that this genocide just, I truly believe, didn't get as much support as possibly a genocide like perhaps the genocide by the Nazis against the Jewish people during the Second World War. Would you agree with that? Do you believe that the Western world were not as interested in the plight of the Bosnian people?
I have to apologize. The connection is not really good. I only heard one part of your question, and I'm on my way driving to Srebrenica, Potočari Memorial, where this morning, in about half an hour, there is a conference organized by the World Jewish Organization. So the Jewish organization at the global level is helping and cooperating the Srebrenica survivors at the Srebrenica Memorial to mark 28th anniversary. So there's a cooperation between those who are actually memorializing the Holocaust and those who are memorializing the Bosnian genocide.
And of course, they are doing that because they understand the narrative. They feel your pain because their fathers and grandfathers experienced exactly what the Bosnian people have experienced 28 years ago.
You know, I think we all need to be careful when comparing genocides that took place against certain ethnic groups committed by various, regimes, because a genocide is always a state-sponsored violence, and so we have to be careful comparing, these different cases that took part at different parts of the world and across, decades or even hundreds of years. So while there's
I'm losing you there, Hasan. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have lost that connection. Let me just give you a bit of a background to my guest. Hasan Nuhanovic and his family fled the violence in their hometown of Vlasenica, but got only as far as Srebrenica. Uh, we do know that the United Nations peacekeepers arrived in that part of the world in 1993, and Nuhanovic found a job with him as a translator. When the Bosnian Serb army attacked Srebrenica in 1995, Nuhanovic and his family sought shelter at the UN base with approximately 30,000 other civilians. The Dutch UN peacekeepers handed the civilians over to the Bosnian Serbs, who separated men from women and children. Hasan Nuhanovic was allowed to stay on the base because of his job. He desperately sought permission for his family to remain as well. Unfortunately, his parents and brother were forced off the UN base. All three were among 8,000 Bosniaks killed by the Serbs. Hasan Nuhanovic has since learned some details about where and how his family was killed, but their remains have not been found. I understand that Hasan has rejoined us on the line. Let's hope and pray it is a more stable line. Hasan, welcome back.
That's right. That's right. I'm approaching the area of Srebrenica, so sometimes the connection is lost on the way.
What does this memorial mean to
Oh,
you, Hasan, knowing that you lost your loved ones during that time and the fact that their remains were never found?
well, can you repeat the last part of your question, please?
What does this memorial mean to you personally? And I also understand, I hope I am correct by making the statement, but we believe that your parents and your brother were among the 8,000 Bosniaks that were killed by the Serbs, and their remains have not yet been found till today.
Well, yes, my family, my parents, and my brother were killed by the Serbs 28 years ago. Thousands more people were killed, and the Srebrenica, massacre, Srebrenica genocide of July '95 was not actually, was unfortunately not the only mass atrocity perpetrated against the Bosnian Muslims during the 92-95 Bosnian War, an aggression. It was an aggression by at least one other country in our immediate neighborhood that invaded Bosnia and supported by the local collaborators. So the victims of many atrocities perpetrated during that time were Bosnian Muslims, and the number of people killed in the country. And speaking of civilians, actually, civilian deaths, as victims of these massacres, is counted in tens of thousands. Tens of thousands of civilians were slaughtered in these massacres, and the Srebrenica genocide of '95 was basically only the last one in the series of these massacres before finally the peace agreement was brokered by United States. My parents and my brother were killed, and like all other victims of the Srebrenica genocide, their remains were dumped dumped in unmarked mass graves. The Bosnian Serb perpetrators tried to hide the evidence, so they did not mark mass graves. And so a few weeks later, what they did when there was a news about a peace agreement and that about 50 to 60,000 international troops are going to come to Bosnia. Well, the perpetrators again, dug out these victims' remains and moved them to secondary mass grave sites and even to tertiary mass grave sites, trying to hide the evidence of the crime. So, what I'm describing to you is what actually happened to the remains that were dismembered in the process, and it became extremely difficult to identify the victims' remains, it would have been impossible without advances in DNA technology. And so my father's remains, or part of his remains, were identified in 2005 and buried, and of my mother and brother in 2010. But in 3 days from now, there is a reburial, a re-exhumation. My brother's remains will have to be, dug out because some other parts of his skeleton were identified in the meantime by DNA and will be added to the grave. So this is what I and the other survivors are still going through, 28 years after this event.
So sorry to hear about this horrible traumatic experience that the Bosnian people are going through 28 years later, and you're still having to deal with the reburial of your loved ones. Allah make it easy on one and all, inshallah. What is the current situation like for the Bosnian people? We hear that there's been peace agreements, etc., etc. But is there still a lot of tension in that region? And do the Bosnian people still fear that there could, at some point in the future, be another uh, a genocide or ethnic cleansing, as the Serbs, like to refer to?
I'm unfortunately, I'm absolutely, unable to tell you the, what the near future or a remote future is going to look like in this country. There's at least there has been at least a period of several years, the last several years, when tensions started to grow again, high tensions, and when everybody, including media and politicians, talk about the possibility about renewed conflict. And so the people, the people in Bosnia who are hoping that, there will be, that the peace will be, preserved, and that this country is going to take this peaceful path to the future, and we hope will be, admitted into European Union sooner or later. People are hoping that the international community is going to help Bosnia to, to avoid a similar scenario to the one that, you know, occurred in the 1990s.
All I can say is that Allah make it easy, and we make lots of dua for our brothers and sisters, our Bosnian brothers and sisters, and we are with you in spirit as thousands of Bosnians march in Bosnia today to mark the 1995 Srebrenica genocide. Lots and lots of du'as. And like I said, Muslims around the world, very especially here in South Africa, are with you in spirit today. Keep strong. Allah be with you, and salamu alaikum to you.
Alaikum salam. Thank you very much for having me in the program, and I wish to, express my gratitude to everybody in the world who remembers Srebrenica today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Inshallah, Ameen. That was Hasan Nuhanovic, and he obviously is part of the march in Bosnia to mark the 1995 Srebrenica genocide against Muslims in that part of the world. So let's keep them close to our hearts, close in our du'as all the time, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their burden. Only they know what they're going through. Imagine 28 years later, and they still have to rebury parts of his brother's remains. And his is not an isolated story. He's telling the story on behalf of the Bosnian people. Very many of them have the same or a similar story. So keep them all in your du'as, inshallah. Exactly 9 o'clock, and we're going to be joined by Zai Jadwat, our news correspondent for the Bulletin of the Day.